Am I the a-hole for wearing a wedding dress at a wedding? And the consensus is not the a-hole. So I'm really curious to see how this pans out. Hello, lovely humans. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reacting as a wedding planner to viral AITA wedding Reddit threads. Am I saying that correctly? I don't know. I don't Reddit because sometimes it helps to have a professional weigh in. And I'm not the first one to come up with this idea, all right? I know plenty of other people do this, but I might be the first wedding planner to do it. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't research it. I just think that every once in a while it feels good to go over some of these things to either one, feel a little less alone if you're dealing with any level of this kind of crazy, and or two, feel a lot better about your wedding planning because you're nowhere near this stuff. So I thought, why not? Let's just read a couple of them together and I can tell you my thoughts and feelings from a wedding planning perspective and see how uncomfortable we all get. And also, I would love to give a huge shout out to our sponsor for this week's video, Generation Tux. You guys know they are my favorite. It can be super easy in the online space to go straight to the negative or kind of complain about a lot of things that happen in wedding planning because it's really stressful. So when you get a standout product like Generation Tux that has 777 reviews on Google and 99% of them are either 4 or 5-star reviews with 0 of them being either a 1 or a 2-star review, y'all, that is literally unheard of. Absolutely unreal. And this is truly just a huge testament to the quality of their product and the quality of their service. So if you are looking to make your wedding planning journey that much easier and one less thing off of your already stressful plate, I would highly recommend that you check out Generation Tux. I'm going to go ahead and link them right here if you want to go check them out. But don't just take my word for it. Go check out these reviews yourself and listen to all these couples that are raving about Generation Tux just as much as I do. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. So now that we've got the positive stuff settled, let's get into the AITA. And if you don't know what that means, it's am I the a-hole? And yeah, I will be censoring myself because while this may not be a family channel, we're going to use family language. Okay? Family-friendly language. Am I the a-hole for wearing a wedding dress at a wedding? My gut immediately would be like, yes, you 100% are. So I'm really curious why the vote was like, no, you're not. So my friend and I have been friends for a few years, and she recently got engaged. A week ago, I got a DM from her for a small costume party she was hosting as a celebration for getting engaged. I asked if there was a theme, and she said there wasn't. I'm a cosplayer, so I had a lot of choices. I feel like all cosplayers have like a multitude of costumes to pick from at any given moment. They're like, it's okay, I got 17, don't worry about it. I didn't want to rock up an anime cosplay, so I thought it'd be funny to go to an engagement party as the corpse bride. Oh. I arrived at her house yesterday and everything seemed normal. A few people complimented my costume and I was having a lot of fun. After 10 minutes, my friend's fiance walked out in a black tuxedo and announced that this was their wedding. This is actually their wedding. Apparently, my friend saw a video of someone doing this and wanted to do the same. He asked us all to go to the backyard for the ceremony to begin. I went straight to him. I asked him if I should quickly go home and change my outfit and that I would get back before it started. He told me that it was fine since I didn't know this was the wedding. I trusted him and followed everyone outside. They got married and everything seemed good. The reception was just in their house, so everyone just walked back inside and picked up where they left off. I tried talking to my friend and celebrating with her, but she kept making excuses to not talk to me. I assumed it was just because she was tired from the big day and wanted some alone time. It didn't bother her after that, and the party soon ended. I got home and half an hour passed when my phone started getting notifications. I checked and it was my friend texting me. She was cussing me out and telling me how I ruined her wedding. I was really confused and asked what I did. That only made her more angry. Oh my! She told me it was basic knowledge to not wear a wedding dress to a wedding. I reminded her that I had no idea it was a wedding and that I asked her now husband if I should change and he said it was fine. She didn't respond, but I got a text from her husband. He asked why I would tell her. He said it was fine. I told him he said it was fine. Oh my gosh. Then he said how I should have changed anyways, and it's my fault that the two of them are now fighting over this. We are off to a fantastic start. I tried texting her that I was sorry, and if I had known, I wouldn't have done it. I woke up today and saw her and her husband have blocked me on everything. Ooh. So, am I the a-hole for not changing out of the wedding dress when I found out it was an actual wedding? Edit to add, I'm a guy. I cosplay the character Emily from The Corpse Bride and have blue paint all over. I'm also Australian and have never heard of a costume party meaning fancy. Everyone was dressed up in funny costumes. Yeah, no, I really don't, if we are going to have unique, out of the norm social expectations for our event, we need to give grace when people don't know how to play by the rules that we're inventing. Because like I agree. Like you read the caption, this person, whoever put this together was very clever because like they made it sound like, oh, yeah, you wore a wedding dress to a wedding. That's a no-no. That's a big fat no-no. And then you read it and you're like, no, that actually makes sense. Like, you don't throw a costume party and then get mad when someone shows up in a costume. And then that person went out of their way to offer to change, and then you're still upset. So there's just a lot of layers to this. And then to see, like, immediately following, both of them have blocked this person, probably on all forms of socials, maybe on, you know, direct cell phone contact as well. That speaks to me, in my opinion, more greatly of their emotional inability to communicate these things or process through these together than it would this person being inappropriate or overstepping a boundary that they didn't even know. So what can you take from this? I don't know. Don't throw a costume party for your wedding if you don't want people to show up wearing a wedding dress. Normally, if you showed up wearing a wedding dress to a wedding, then I would say, yeah, you are the a-hole for sure. And we've heard very random situations. I've never experienced it. Heard very random situations where, like, you know, a mother-in-law will show up wearing like a white dress, and you're like, what's that movie, Monster-in-Law with Jane Fonda? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's vaguely reminiscent of that. But no, you are not the a-hole. All right, let's find another stimulating title to read together, shall we? Ooh, this one is from a month ago. Am I the a-hole for thinking that my sister is selfish for wanting to skip my wedding because of her trauma? And this person was, yes, indeed, voted the a-hole. I haven't read this yet. Okay, cool. It's nice and short. Let's see if we can get through this. Okay. I am about to get married to my fiance, and we already got the wedding list down. However, my sister just rejected my invitation because apparently she doesn't believe she can be at my wedding without her trauma being triggered. Her husband died 6 years ago, just 10 days after they got married. Oh. And now my sister thinks attending another wedding would trigger all of these memories and would be too much for her, even though she knew her husband would die soon after their wedding because he had late-stage cancer. That was the only reason they even got married. And it was 6 years ago. So by all means, she shouldn't be so traumatized that she should avoid any and all weddings, including mine. Honestly, I feel like this trauma thing is just an excuse to not come because we've always had a rocky relationship. But come on now, it's my wedding. She should put that aside and support me during my biggest day. Also, her friend called me to complain about how our family harassing my sister to come to my wedding are sending her into a depression and even made her skip work, which I admit I did get my family to try to convince my sister to attend my wedding, but nobody has been harassing anyone, and I feel like she's once again playing the depression card so she can get away with her unfair treatment of me. But now, even my fiance is on her side and wants to leave her alone because it's not worth it to bully anyone to come to our wedding. He also suggested me to post this here. Am I the a-hole? Okay, so there's probably so much more to this than that we're going to be able to unpack in a Reddit thread, right? Like, this is historically, you've had a difficult relationship with this sister. You know her probably better than the rest of us do, better than a bunch of random strangers online. So for you to be like, I feel like this is an excuse that she's just using to not come. Like, this is very indicative of our relationship. We've been here before. Like, this is par for the course. I can understand those feelings and those sensations. But when someone draws that line in the sand, right? Like, and we can't see someone's trauma. When someone uses that term and goes, line in the sand, I'm done. That's crying uncle. Whether they're truly feeling that or not, I feel like is not for me to really speak to. And I feel like, some of the responses, I'm like, do you actually want your sister at your wedding to celebrate with you? Or are you just looking for an excuse to be awful to her? Really, she's playing the depression card. Her husband died 10 days after her own wedding. I get that it happened a few years ago, but she's allowed to still grieve about it. Why do you want to have her at your wedding? You said yourself that your relationship is rocky. You seem to have a very low opinion of her, so why are you insisting? That second part has a lot of power in this. Like, if you do have this rocky relationship, this might feel like, and we might be missing out on so much that has happened here in this relationship. There's something that we try to abide by in our family. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Like, don't give a passive-aggressive yes and don't give like a no with strings attached. Just try really hard to let your yes be yes and your no be no. Am I always good at this? No, I'm super good at being passive-aggressive. Just ask my husband. But she said no. Let that hurt if it needs to hurt. Process through that if you need to process through that. But her no is no. Whatever her reasons are, and you might feel like her reasons are invalid because you know this person way better than we do. Or you might be misjudging how much she is really affected by this. And I recognize that my response might actually end up frustrating people as I'm responding to it. But if you think about it, we are only seeing a small portion of what's going on here. So it's really unfair for us to judge either one of these parties based on this one part of the conversation. You know, maybe this person has consistently played the victim in the past. So it's hard to see when it's truth or not coming out. Maybe this person has consistently been not very truthful in general. Or maybe they really are experiencing a lot of trauma and they really cannot picture going to a wedding. Really. They might be really going through it. And the person who posted this, the OP, is just like an absolute jerk, right? But without adding some context here, I don't know which direction to point it in. What I can say though is if someone says no, just let it be a no. If you'd like to pursue the relationship afterwards, you have the freedom to do so. This is why I like to demystify and depressurize the biggest, best day of your life mentality around your wedding day, because it feels like if you don't come to my wedding, then you must not love me. If you don't come to my wedding, then I must not be important enough to you. And that's a lot of pressure to place on one day. It's a lot of strain to place on one relationship. Now, it's placed there whether you want it to be there or not sometimes, but you are also in control of how this is handled before, during, and after your wedding day. So if you seriously want to repair this relationship, don't let the wedding day be the one reason that you cannot. Ooh! Am I the a-hole for leaving a wedding to eat at McDonald's? Not the a-hole. Well, I can only imagine where we're going with this. This seems to be the general consensus on this one. Recently, my colleague invited me to her wedding, which happened yesterday. I was super excited and happy for her. Just in case, I asked her if there was going to be any guest fees. She said, no, you don't need to pay me anything. What? What in tarnation is guest fee? Is this something I don't know about? Is this like a cultural thing from somewhere else? What is a guest fee? I have a feeling that's going to be important here. On the day itself, everything went well until the reception, dinner time. To my shock, I was presented with a wedding menu that had prices on it. For example, steak was $50. Everything was ridiculously expensive, including the vegetarian options. Wait, where is this happening that you have to ask about guest fees and that you're charging? Because this is just not something I'm used to at all. At first, I wanted to question her because, well, she lied to me that I didn't have to pay for anything, but it was her wedding and I didn't want to spoil her day by embarrassing her in front of everyone. However, the only other option was simply to not eat, and I didn't bring enough money for both a meal and a ride back. But this was completely unfavorable as I had skipped my lunch to save space for the wedding meal and was pretty hungry. Okay, slight little side note. When people are like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to serve food at the cocktail hour. Serve food at the cocktail hour, okay? Because so many people, as they're getting ready for the day or whatever, they like skip meals. I don't know what it is. A ton of people will just skip lunch. And I don't think it's like a 50% majority or whatever it happens to be. Or that's not a majority. 50%, that's half. I don't know if it's like equates out to that, but there are people who will like be traveling or getting ready or be running around or maybe grabbing a gift at the last minute. They're coming to your wedding expecting to be fed a meal and expecting to have food during cocktail hour. So for people who are like, I'm not planning on doing that, then you can just wait till dinner. And it's like, yeah, but for some reason people at weddings get weird. Exhibit A. Not that this is weird, but like this person didn't eat. Oh, because she wanted to save space for the wedding meal. Maybe just eat if you're hungry. Just feed yourself. Suddenly, I remembered that I saw McDonald's about 5 minutes away from the hotel. As tactfully as I could, I asked the bride if I could make a quick stop at McDonald's as I didn't bring enough money for the reception meal. Said I'd be back in time for the gift ceremony and the cake. Where is this? Why would you say anything? Like, just go. Like, just... Unless you're in a situation where, like, you can't or it's a really small group or whatever. Because you also talked about confronting the bride and you don't want to spoil the day in front of everyone. So my guess is this is a more intimate setting? I said I'd be back in time for the gift ceremony and the cake. Where is this that you have a gift ceremony? I have more questions than answers. I thought she'd agree, but to my horror, she got really upset. She said that she put in so much effort to get this Michelin star restaurant service, yet I still wasn't happy. That I was trying to bring her down by saying I would rather eat McDonald's. Oh, that sounds like multiple layers of unhealthy going on right now. Alarmed, I said I didn't mean it that way. I just didn't have the cash for it. Then she scoffed, saying, whose fault is that? Although I was trying to keep in my anger, those words really pissed me off, so I told her, you were the one who lied that I didn't need to pay anything. Where is this happening? Sorry for yelling at you. Getting angry as well, she replied, what I meant was there is no attendance fee. Who? You literally assumed that you'd get a free 5-course dinner. Wow, you're cheaper than I thought. With a glare, she asked me to leave her wedding. I did. Struck dumb and rather hurt. Where is this? Alex Hormozy would be so jazzed by this. You should charge people to come to your wedding. You should charge them for the food. Apparently this happened somewhere. Alex, you just should have moved there before you and your wife got married. And on my way home, I grabbed a Big Mac. Back at home, I told my boyfriend everything and asked if I was the a-hole. He thought it was a funny story, but said I was an a-hole. If I didn't have the money, I could always pay her back later. In his exact words, he said, you chose the wrong time to be stingy. Ooh, well, no. If we're being frugal and prudent with our finances, that's not being stingy. Like, if you didn't expect to pay 50... Where is this happening? But also, if you didn't expect to pay $50 for a meal, then you didn't expect to pay $50 for a meal. Right? My other friends agree as well, saying that it was not tactful of me for doing that at the wedding. And although she lied, I should have just brushed it off instead of dampening her happy spirits. After hearing their opinions, I felt quite guilty and embarrassed. However, that one little part of me still thinks that's justified because 1, she lied to me, and 2, she publicly humiliated me. Please help me out. Am I the a-hole? How I would have handled it personally. I would not have, unless it was like 4 people, unless it was a small enough gathering that I couldn't escape unnoticed, I would just leave. I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't feel the need to call attention to the fact. I wouldn't ask for permission to go get food or a Big Mac. I just would go do that and then come back. If it was a small enough environment that I could successfully do that without putting some sort of damper on the environment itself. If that didn't work, I probably would go up to the bride, my friend, and be like, hi, I think there's a little bit of miscommunication. I didn't realize that the food was supposed to be paid for. I don't have that on me. Is there like a backup option for this? I would have done that instead of just being like, hey, this is too expensive. I'm gonna go grab a Big Mac. I'll be back before the gift and cake situation. I probably wouldn't have done that exactly. But I think that I have so many questions. Where is this happening? Yeah, I also think that the friend reacted in a way that was really in poor taste. If someone came to me on my wedding, if someone came to me and was like, hey, I thought dinner was free and it's not, in a situation where I could have misconstrued that, I can understand being like, oh my goodness, I don't want that for you. Like, no, okay, well, we'll cover it and we'll figure it out later. Let's just enjoy our evening. How about that? Right? That's personally how I would handle it. So there's a couple of layers of like, maybe emotionally or socially I would have responded in a different way. But I think at the end of the day, the fact that both of them had such strong reactions, the original poster and the friend reacting to that as well, there's like layers to this. Also, I really want to... Where is this? I'm going to read through the comments to see if I can figure out what this is, because I don't know if I can move on with my life. Someone said, my sister was invited to a wedding where the 20-year-old bride realized 2 months before the date they didn't have the money to pay for their 300 guests. So they decided to have the guests pay for the food, but still expected gifts. 250 people backed out. My sister was one of them. The bride was really upset that people were so cheap when it was her special day. So, apparently, I've never been on live television before. Y'all, weddings bring out the funky in people, for sure. There's a lot to unpack here. What I will say, though, is if you are reaching a point where you are needing to ask some questions, where you're trying to figure out the social etiquette of some of this, and you really wish that you had a wedding planner and you don't have one, I would love to do that for you. I'd love to be that for you. I do Q&As on Instagram every single Monday. I always have that link down below. If you ever feel like you want to jump in and ask a question there, you totally can. And I also spend an hour every single month with all the members of the master plan, answering your questions in real live time. It's me there responding to the questions that you submit. So if you are interested in joining the master plan, I would love to support you through some of this because I know this is really difficult. If you're just here for the entertaining content and for the budget advice, well then maybe you should just charge an attendance fee and charge people for the food. Because apparently that's a thing and you should apparently be asking that beforehand. So that's what we have for this week's video, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you liked the video, jump on down there, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. Also, if you want to receive a notification every time I upload a video, go ahead and ring that bell icon so you will be notified the next time we decide to go over random things on the internet or give budget advice would be helpful. And thanks again, Generation Tux, for sponsoring this week's video and making just one part of wedding planning so much easier. And until next week, bye guys!